Now there was a priest, a teacher, a judge, and a taxi driver who found themselves at the pearly gates of heaven at the same time. Now there was the recording angel to ask each of them what was the summation of their lives. And the priest said, I've spent my whole life disseminating the word of the Lord. I've traveled to far distant places as a missionary, going without myself to bring the words of the scriptures to mankind. And then the teacher said, well, as for myself, I have served education. All of my life has been spent in bettering the ways of educating the children that are growing to lead our world. And the judge said, I've studied the law books and I've attempted to bring justice to whoever found their way into my courtroom. Well, the recording angel finished his writing and then summoned the dark angels to come and take these three away to the fiery realms called hell. And just at that moment, there was a fanfare of trumpets, and a bevy of angels came out of the pearly gates to escort the taxi driver in. Well, the three, the priest, the teacher, and the judge were affronted, and one of them, the judge of course, dared to speak up and say, what do you mean? Why is it that we have been relegated to hell and this man is being escorted into heaven? The recording angel said, well, you three who purport to have served have really only served for your own purposes, for name and fame. In other words, serving your egos. But this man, his driving was so scary that everyone who sat in his taxi was catapulted into prayer, repentance, and salvation. He saved so many souls. He has no need to make any recording, and this is why he has this fanfare. Then Mullah Nasruddin was called up to the Sultan's palace. The Sultan addressed the Mullah and said, Mullah, I hear you're a great mystic, a great seer, and a great oracle. Now tell me my fortune right now, otherwise your head goes on the chopping block. Well, the Mullah waxed lyrical about the Sultan's life, what was to come, embellishing his accomplishments. The Sultan was greatly pleased, and he said to the Mullah, he said, where do you get your gift from? How did you acquire this knowledge? And the Mullah looked him straight in the eye and said, fear. Fear will do it every time. It will evoke any kind of inspiration. So, out of these several little stories, of course arises the question for us, what is the similarity or the difference? And what is your interpretation of these two simple and yet very evocative anecdotes.
That fear has a purpose.
Pardon?
That fear has a purpose.
Right. Yes. As much as we yes.
Because it doesn't matter how you get into the spirit. It's just going there is what matters.
Yes. Right. Sum it up for us now. Just as Bonnie said, sum it up. Right? The opening up, what do you mean by opening up?
Surrendering.
Is that what you do?
Because whether you have the fear or not, you're still going to do it.
That's exactly so. Whether you have the fear or not, you still
Nike got it right, hey? Just do it.
just do it. But we were talking the other day at a little Tuesday meditation group about bringing those three levels of mind together that we've called the nitty-gritty, airy-fairy and transcendental. Or, as they're called in the high-flown terms, existence, knowledge and bliss, Satchitananda. And we know those three levels very well. And our mind has vacillated and come from one of these at various times. But now in this place, we find ourselves not able to make any differentiation between those realms. Just like Satchitananda became one word for us. But what does it mean when we put it together with the discussions we've had about stillness and movement? Knowing that the three levels of mind encompass the three levels of movement, of existence. And that stillness, for want of a better way of describing it, is just our presence, our attention, our focus, our being right here. And what happens when those two meet? The movement of those three levels of existence and this place of presence. These little stories enable us to be able to very clearly understand what it is that arises when those two meet. How? How do they do that? Is it because of the content of the stories? Now we find ourselves with these stories not coming from one or other of those levels, one or other of those states of mind, but experiencing the story in its totality, in its essence, because the story already embraces the three levels. But how does it work, and what does it elicit for us in terms of a response? A response. We have to go back to the story of the Arabs and the camel passing by. Everything reminds us of food, as the Arab said. But what is it that every situation in life reminds us of. Not as a mentation, but when those two meet, it's there and it's evidenced for us. What is it? What is it that lies beyond those three levels? That nitty-gritty cause and effect, the intuitive, occult, magic, dreams, and that level that is one where we know the interrelatedness of life. What is it that's always there for you now?
It's a bit like once the experience is made, once it is touched, it's together.
Yes.
Whatever is touched reminds us of this.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like that Arab. No, simply put, someone asked me years ago, how do you cope with those people coming up your driveway carrying all their baggage and all their darkness and all of it? I said, when someone walks up my driveway, I see God first, then I see the baggage. How would you express it? How would you explain that now in terms of what's just been exchanged? You're using that old terminology as I did. I see God first, then I see the baggage. How would you explain it? What's always there for you, no matter what life brings in at whatever level it might be? Combativeness, someone facing you off in the supermarket, or a spirit coming in the middle of the night, or even a feeling of euphoria, a state, exaltation. What's always there, no matter what it is?
For me, it's like, I can only like describe it for me as like, you know, if it's all going like that, and I go, is it a calmness that comes up with it? And then I still have that emotion, like I still might be going, oh, but somewhere from in here is a calmness that kind of goes like that. And then I just go do whatever it is that I need.
This is meant to be, whatever is in front of us, this is meant to be, and it feels it's right, whatever it is. How much suffering or joy or whatever, it's just meant to be.
So it's a sense of...
A sense of well-being, I guess.
Yes. Right.
For me, it's a sense of beyondness and withinness at the same time. That when the veils are parted and form drops away, whether the form is a physical or a mental thought or a feeling, and for me those forms are becoming thinner and more transparent and easier to recognise as illusions. And so for me it's become, it's sort of like I often see myself parting the veil and stepping into something that's just, you know, an isness, that I can then turn back and look at what's actually going on with a sort of a detachment that's not an unloving detachment. Yeah, that's the best way I can put it. Yeah.
So we're back to that question that has been asked. What is it that lies beyond this doorway of stillness, that place where the movement meets. We've called it a doorway. We have to discover what it is that lies beyond that doorway. But first we have to clarify and be clear about that question that's been asked also. What is it that's there when stillness and movement meet? Recognizing that the experience of it is one of cancelling out. When that experience meets that stillness, even though we're aware of a presence, neither stillness nor movement exist. Is that not so? Because in the enactment of that law that is brought forth when stillness and movement meet, neither are present, just like there is no time and no place. Isn't it so? When you're absorbed in that experience, is there time? Are you counting it? Do you have any thoughts about what it is that you're going to say or exchange? You're totally absorbed, out of time, in that experience. In that, there's no stillness and no movement. Watch it for yourself in these moments of life. Watch it for yourself and see what's there. Get a grip on this. And then let's get behind that doorway. See what's to be found.